Welcome first grade. Today we are continuing our theme study of habitats and mammals by moving into a mysterious place, one that is not anywhere near Colorado, but that is fascinating to me and to so many different creatures on this planet. It is called the ocean. So take a look, see what you have to find. But before we do that, I want you to think to yourself, what do you think you know about the ocean? Pause the video for just a moment. See if you can share a list of things you think you know with somebody close by. And if there isn't anyone close by, just think it in your brain. The things you think you know about the ocean. Maybe about it as a habitat, or about the animals that live there, the space and what it looks like, the food. Hit pause until you're done sharing what you think you know. Now, I'd like you to start thinking about some questions you might have. Is there anything you would like to find out about the ocean? About the animals that live there? About the habitat? The space? The food? Let's keep going. Welcome to the ocean.
Most people's feeling about the Earth is that we know everything. We know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the ocean floor. Only about 10 to 15% of the ocean floor has been mapped with any accuracy. Every time we put our ROV sub in the water, we find something new still. We see fish that we can't identify, or habitats that are just extremely bizarre. New technology is really advancing our understanding of the ocean. From tagging whales to studying biofluorescent fishes and corals, we can now collect much more data. And we can also use things like ROVs and submersibles to get to areas of the ocean that we haven't been able to access in the past. It's important to study the oceans because they have such an impact on how we live and on the Earth, in terms of climate, in terms of food sources, in terms of the oxygen we breathe.
Pretty cool, right? I know. So, before we jump in, we have to kind of talk about something that's really important. What is an ocean? So, if you take a look at this map, all of this blue space is the ocean. But it looks like there's just one, but there isn't just one. There are, in fact, 7 oceans. The Arctic, which we studied during our polar region unit, and you are familiar with. But then there's also the North Atlantic, the South Atlantic, the North Pacific, the South Pacific, the Indian, and the Southern Oceans. Now, some interesting facts that you should know. Oceans cover 71% of Earth's surface. Huh? What does that mean? Well, let's take a look at this pie chart right here. Let's pretend that's the planet Earth. All that blue space is the ocean. All that red space is land. Do you see how much more space is ocean than land? Yep, that's what it means for 71% of the Earth to be covered in ocean. Now, something else that's interesting. Oceans contain 97% of Earth's water. So let's take a look at this, and let's pretend that this pie chart is a glass of water that we're looking down at. just holding it down, just like so. That blue water, and there's red water. The blue is from the ocean, and the red is fresh. The thing with the ocean water is that it's made of salt water, and people can't drink salt water. It's really unhealthy. And so, only that tiny, itty-bitty 3% of all the water on the planet is drinkable, and people need water to survive. So, isn't that interesting that 97% of all of our water on the planet is from the oceans, and it's in fact undrinkable? Just a quick fast fact. The other interesting thing, and unfortunately I couldn't find a chart to show you this, but oceans contain 99% of living space on the planet. So there are places, as you know from our polar region study, that it's really hard for people and animals to live in. Those would not be considered living spaces. And so, if we think about it, 99%, that's even more than this amount of blue. It's more than that. Is in the ocean? Seriously? That's strange. That means there must be so many animals and plants in the ocean. Huh. Must be quite a place. Let's keep going. So there are 4 different ocean habitats. The intertidal, which is right here, reefs, open ocean, and deep ocean, which you'll see shortly. Now, the intertidal zone is the space between the edge of the beach, right here, and the ocean. Now, during high tide, ocean water comes up on the beach, and it covers the sand and the mud and the rocks. And then at low tide, the water goes back down further into the ocean, which means that the mud and the sand and the rocks is uncovered. That space where that mud, the sand, and the rocks gets covered and uncovered over and over again every day, that's the intertidal zone. And so there are animals like crabs, shellfish, and shallow water fish that live there, among so many others. Also, if you get lucky, you might even catch a dolphin.
And now it's time for some more amazing animals. Number 71, the amazing bottlenose dolphin. Prepare for something wonderful. Nestling in the tropical oceans and warm waters of our magnificent planet, these mightily intelligent mammals, who have even bigger brains than our own, travel in social groups called pods.
Did you say iPod? Mine's broken, dude. Gary got fish in it.
I'm sorry, Tony. Bottlenose dolphins communicate with a complex system of squeaks, whistles, and clicks, which they use as a kind of underwater radar to find fish. They also use their heads to work as a team, pushing their prey up onto the shore for easy sushi to go.
Ow, that's my lunch!
They're also fast, reaching speeds of over 18 miles per hour. They have excellent vision, which is just perfect for doing this.
Wow, look at that dude, yeah! Radical!
Strangely, these mammals often seem to enjoy human company, coming to the surface to breathe just like us. They certainly take our breath away. Thank you, bottlenose dolphins, for being such amazing animals.
Wow. So usually you would find dolphins in the open ocean, but every so often they do show up in the intertidal zone, just like you saw in that video. We'll keep learning more over the course of this week and throughout this slideshow. Let's keep going. So, coral reefs. This is one of my favorite habitats. Coral are actually, they look like plants, don't they? They look like beautiful flowers and maybe some rocks in there. But here's the thing, they're actually living animals. And lots The weird thing is that even though coral are living animals, other animals live inside them. And not only that, they find food in them, they find protection in them. It's like this whole crazy place. That's why it's a habitat. An actual living creature is a habitat? Huh, interesting. So, the Great Barrier Reef is the biggest coral reef in the world. I'd like you to take a look and see what that's like. It's incredible. So watch carefully and think to yourself still about that list of things you thought you knew about the ocean, those questions you might have, and see if you can keep adding on to those things that you've learned.
Wow, that is so beautiful, isn't it, Squeaks? We're looking at pictures of a coral reef, a rocky piece of ground in the ocean that's made of and home to animals called coral. I wonder if this is the Great Barrier Reef. That's the biggest coral reef in the entire world. It's in the ocean near the country of Australia. See these parts of the picture? Those are the coral. Well, you're right, Squeaks. Coral looks a lot like plants, but they're not. Coral are small animals that make and live in a hard, rocky material. Instead of moving around like most animals, they attach to the rocks and stay there for the rest of their lives. That's why they might seem like plants at first, because plants don't move around either. One small part of a coral reef can have thousands of coral all living together. Millions of coral over thousands of years have made the Great Barrier Reef. This huge reef is about 2,300 kilometers long. That's so long that if you could drive along it in a car, it would take you almost an entire day and night. Like all coral reefs, the Great Barrier Reef is home to lots of other kinds of animals too, big and small. Take, for example, the dugong. These big animals eat plants. Lots of plants. Dugongs spend their whole day looking for and grazing on the seagrasses that grow on coral reefs like the Great Barrier Reef. If the reef didn't exist, these gentle giants wouldn't have enough to eat. Other animals need the rocky coral reef so that they have a safe place to live, like moray eels. They might look fierce and dangerous, but they're really very shy, so they spend most of their time hiding in caves and spaces in the reef. Yes, Squeaks, just like you're hiding behind this desk. Other animals use the coral reef to hide in a different way, like the cuttlefish. Cuttlefish can change the color of their skin so they look a lot like the coral reef. That helps the cuttlefish hide from other animals that want to eat them. The Great Barrier Reef is an important place for all these animals, and it's an important place for people too. The reef helps protect Australia from the strong waves that storms churn up from the water. We can also make some types of medicine using the plants and animals that live there. But the ocean is changing, and that means changes for the Great Barrier Reef too. Some things people do, like use too much electricity, make the world get a little warmer, including the oceans. As the ocean gets warmer, coral can have a hard time getting enough food. And with fewer coral, the animals that live around them have a harder time finding enough food too. Another problem is pollution in the ocean. Chemicals, litter, and other kinds of waste that can eventually make their way into the water and hurt the animals that live there. But people are working on ways to help the animals that live on and around the reef to stay healthy, like learning how to keep pollution from getting into the ocean. And there are things that we can do to help too, no matter where we live. For example, things that go down drains in our sinks or bathtubs can sometimes end up in the ocean. We can help keep the ocean clean by only putting things we're supposed to down the drain. We can also make sure trash ends up in the garbage can or recycling bin where it belongs, which helps keep it from getting into rivers or the ocean. There are lots of awesome living things in the ocean, and if everyone works together, we can help keep them healthy. Thanks for joining us. If you want to keep learning and having fun with Squeaks and me, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time here at the Fort.
Wow. Did you learn anything that time? I actually noticed an adaptation in there. Did anybody pick up on the cuttlefish? It protects itself by camouflaging in a coral reef. Isn't that kind of neat? Just thought it would be a quick, fast fact. Anyway, just thinking back to that list, is there anything else you want to add to the things that you've learned? So another habitat in the ocean, gosh, who would have thought there were so many, is the open ocean. So here, this is where animals live, and they stay away from the ocean floor and they stay away from the surface. Some animals that live in the open ocean include sharks, fish, dolphins, whales, tuna, and many, many others. There are tons. Take a look at this video all about blue whales.
And now it's time for some more amazing animals. Number 2, the amazing blue whale. Have we got a tale for you?
Ah, I'm all wet.
What we have here is the largest mammal ever known to man, woman, or mouse.
Oh, what am I doing underwater? Help!
Blue whales can be found in all the world's oceans. At around 98 feet long and 180 tons, they are the jumbo jets of the seas.
Belly flop.
Oh, has it sprung a leak? No. Like us, blue whales need to breathe, so they come to the surface to use their blowholes. I only just got dry. Did you know their hearts weigh the same as a cow, their tongue's the same as an elephant, and their baby's the same as a hippo? I'm not changing those diapers. They like to eat krill, little tiny shrimps, sometimes up to 40 million in a day.
Sorry.
Blue whales are an endangered species. If you're lucky, you might see one, but not so lucky if you're a krill.
Run for your lives!
The blue whale. What an amazing animal.
So you can find blue whales anywhere in pretty much any ocean, but they like to be in the open ocean where they're not too close to the bottom, but not too close to the top either. Let's keep moving on. So this is the fourth and last of the habitats that I've learned about so far in the ocean. And this is also the one that is the least understood. And that's just because it is so hard to get to. It is called the deep sea, and there are trenches in the deep sea. Now, just like the name says, it is deep, deep down. And because it is so deep down, there is almost no sunlight that gets there. So it's very dark. Any of the light that you see in those pictures is really from submarines or from humans who are trying to get down there to do studies. So it's very, very dark. Since it's so dark, there's nothing to get it to warm up. So it's really cold. And then on top of that, because there is so much water on top of this part of the ocean, there's this pressure. So it's almost like somebody pushing down on your shoulders. And it's almost could hurt to be down there because there's so much pressure. Now, since it is so hard to get there, we really don't know much. But here are some of the things that we do know. Take a look.
Deep in the Pacific Ocean, near China, there's a long crescent-shaped area that's one of the most special places on Earth. It's called the Mariana Trench, and it's the deepest part of the ocean. It's so far down that for a long time, scientists weren't even sure if anything could live there. But then we finally were able to explore it, and it turns out that there are some awesome forms of life down there. The Mariana Trench is almost 11,000 meters, or about 36,000 feet deep. It's hard to even imagine how far down that is, but think about how far you would go if you walked for 2 hours, like for as long as a movie. Yeah, that would be a really long walk, but you'd end up going pretty far, right? Yeah, well, that's about as far down as the deepest part of the ocean is. If you put the biggest mountain on Earth inside it, the top of the mountain wouldn't even come close to the surface of the water. And when you get that deep into the ocean, it becomes really hard for anything to survive. For one thing, it's super dark. The light from the sun can't go through all that water, and almost everything that's alive needs sunlight to live, so it's really important. It's also really cold. It's so cold that if it got even a tiny bit colder, the water would freeze into ice. And there's tons of pressure down there too. Pressure is what happens when something pushes on something else. Like if I press my hands against this table, my hands are putting pressure on the table. At the bottom of the Mariana Trench, all the water above creates lots of pressure, so much that it wouldn't be safe for people or almost any other living thing to swim around down there. The pressure would be way too strong. Between the darkness and the cold and the pressure, it's very hard for anything to survive at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. But there are some special types of life that can, like something called a sea cucumber. No, not that kind of cucumber, Squeaks. Even though they have a similar name, sea cucumbers aren't anything like the cucumber fruit we eat in salad sometimes. They're animals. They kind of look like big worms, and they live on the ocean floor, where they look for things to eat, like tiny animals, so small you wouldn't even be able to see them. Another type of animal that lives in the deepest part of the ocean are amphipods, which look a little bit like shrimp. Most of the animals that are similar to amphipods and live in other places are pretty small. They usually only get about a centimeter long or about as long as a fingernail. But the amphipods at the bottom of the Mariana Trench are much bigger. They can be 20 centimeters long or about the size of a grown-up's hand. There are also lots of another type of living thing called foraminifera, or just forams for short, that live in the deepest part of the ocean. There are more than 400 kinds of them living in the Mariana Trench. And they're not animals or plants or even fungi like mushrooms. They're a type of living thing called a protist. These forams can be about the same size as the amphipods, or even bigger, up to 30 centimeters long. All the types of life in the deepest part of the ocean are soft with no hard bones. They can't have bones because the pressure down there is so strong that it would just turn them into mush. That strong pressure also makes it very hard for us humans to go explore the Mariana Trench, which is why there's a lot scientists still don't know about it. We can send people down there in special types of submarines that keep them safe from the pressure and the cold, or we can send robots without people. I know, Squeaks, I would love to go exploring there too. But it's very hard and expensive to build submarines or robots that can go that far down. Scientists have only done it a few times, so we know a little bit about what's down in the deepest part of the ocean, but a lot of it is still a big mystery. Thanks for joining us. If you want to keep learning and having fun with Squeaks and me, hit the red subscribe button, and we'll see you next time here at the Fort.
Wow, that's a lot of information. So right now, one more time, I just want you to think. What have you learned about the ocean? And don't you dare say nothing. Otherwise, big trouble. I'm just kidding. But I bet you learned at least one thing. Can you scratch your chin for one? Maybe stroke your nose for two? Pull your ear if you learned 3 things from any point in this slideshow video. So there are directions on the website for an activity for you to do. Tomorrow, you will be doing some basic research on Britannica School. Many of you are familiar with that website, but the thing is your grown-ups may not be, and so you're going to have to be the teachers on this one. I will give them the usernames, the passwords, all the information you need to get in, but you're going to have to show them how to use that audio feature to read the articles and learn as much as you can about the ocean. Make sure you're thinking to yourself about what else you would like to learn about the ocean, and keep collecting information. There's so much to learn. Okay, have a wonderful rest of the day. I will see you soon. Bye.